The moment you've been wanting to hear, it looks like that Apple are going to make a macOS mode or an iPadOS Pro hybrid operating system for the top line iPads. We've had patents showing us that Apple are looking to change the interface of iPadOS, as you can see right here, and it does look a bit similar to macOS. As you know right now, we have iPadOS, which can run on iPads like this one here, which just has an A10 inside of it. And we're only getting benchmarks of 1,172 in multi-core scores, yet on the other end of the scale, we have, say, an M4, and we can get exactly the same experience as what we're getting on here as on here. And the M4 is giving us a multi-core score of an average of 14,520 if we combine an average of all these benchmark scores right here. We're talking about a device that is 12 times slower. In fact, it's actually more than 12 times slower than this iPad right here, and yet we can still do essentially the same things on both iPads, and that's just absolutely nuts. And I know Apple don't sell this iPad anymore, but they sell this iPad here. This is the iPad 10th generation. And even with this iPad, it's 3 times slower than this M4 iPad that we have right here. And yet still again, we can do essentially the same tasks on it. Obviously, we can't use the new Apple Pencil Pro, but we can use, say, the normal new USB pencil that came out last year. And that works for like 90% of the sort of jobs what we can do on, say, the M4 iPad Pro. And as we know, a lot of us all think the same. There's no point in buying one of these iPads Pros here with this much power inside of it, when this iPad here can, like I said, do essentially the same thing. Apple needs to make a separator here. They need to make devices that, say, have the M1 inside of it, going all the way up to the M4 iPad Pros, and also the M1 and M2 iPad Airs should sit on its own operating system. Now, I know a lot of you have said, why can't we just put, say, macOS like we have on this M3 MacBook Pro on an M4 iPad Pro, because surely that should just be easy enough. It's the same sort of bits and pieces inside of it to run that. We have Magic Keyboard and things like that. Why can't Apple just do that? Because it would just make a lot of sense for that to happen. Well, the end conclusion is that Apple, here's the secret, don't actually want you to pick one of these devices, one or the other. They actually want you to own both of these devices. So for that, macOS, how it is right now, looks like it will not be coming over to the iPad. But there again, owning both these devices, it just feels a bit pointless. So to me, I think it'd make more sense to own, say, one of these iPads and, say, own this MacBook at the same time, and not own an iPad Pro whatsoever. But then that's the thing, what's the point then in having all this power inside an iPad Pro if we can't fully utilize it with its current operating system? And this is where it looks like things could be changing. And let me tell you about those changes right after we talk about today's sponsor from Lexa and their hard drives. One of the big downers for iPads and also for MacBooks is that you don't actually get a lot of internal storage for your money right now. That's why you probably could be better off getting yourself an external SSD, just like the Lexa SL500. It is super thin and it is an amazing hard drive for something like a MacBook Air and also for other MacBooks out there too. You can get super fast read and write speeds on USB 3.2 Gen 2x2. So this allows you to get read speeds up to 2000 megabytes and write speeds of 1800 megabytes. And as you just saw there, it's still really fast with the USB 3.2 Gen 1 speeds here, what the MacBook Air M1 offers. The hard drive is also super slim and also super light. You can also use it with your iPhone to do ProRes recording, say on an iPhone 15 Pro model. And also, if you're worried about this hard drive getting too hot, well, there's some great benefits what this hard drive has. It has a global leading NAND flash controller manufactured specifically for the SL500, and it only uses a single NAND chip inside of it, reducing power consumption and heat generation. And the design of the case around here also dissipates heat really easily away from it. Like I said, this is one of the thinnest and lightest SSDs I've ever used. It's even thinner than, say, my iPhone 15 Pro Max, as you can see right here. And if you want to find out more information about this Lexa SL500, then do check out the information that's in the description of this video right now. So as you can see from looking at these patents here, it looks like we could have an improved iPadOS. This first patent right here looks like we have an interface that is very similar to the current macOS, but I believe this was implemented to the actual iPad. I would actually say things like close, maximize, minimize, they would probably be enhanced to be a little bit larger so you could use it with your fingers, because obviously if you use that say like on a macOS kind of interface, it's going to be a little bit tricky. And also that you could use say the Magic Keyboard with the actual sort of trackpad there as well, or the touchpad. It would be working really well along with it to use it together as the interface. It seems like that this would be kind of like a hybrid kind of iPadOS. So this is what I'm saying. It wouldn't be quite macOS and it wouldn't be quite say iPadOS. It'd be something in the middle here. And of course, this would mean that lots of the features that we have right now with macOS would be coming over to iPadOS, and also vice versa too. Quite a lot of iPadOS features that are not available in macOS would come in the middle there too, to make this hybrid sort of pro operating system. For example, here's a good one where Apple could enhance the camera app. Not just by saying taking photos, which looks very similar to say iOS right now, but to say to fully utilize the AR tool with the LiDAR sensor. It looks like we could say even interact with sketching over live videos or photos right away. We wouldn't actually have to open up the photo and then start editing right away. We could actually use the actual iPad's cameras there again with the LiDAR sensor and actually kind of sketch on the go as we're going around here. Now I know you're going to say there's some pro apps what can do that on the iPad, but this is what I'm trying to say. This would actually be built into iPadOS, or this new iPadOS Pro sort of version of the software. It'd be all built into it. So moving on then to AI features. We have been told that Apple will be bringing loads of AI features to iOS this year. Now if you know anything about Apple, what they tend to do is if they show anything for iOS, what is a new feature, and if it can be copied over to iPadOS or to macOS, well, that happens. So anything that says new AI features for iOS, well, like I said, it'll probably be replicated over to iPadOS and also, like I said, to macOS too. And as you can see right here from these reports, that we're going to get lots of AI updates. And this also means that iPadOS potentially could be getting this too. And this would give the fantastic opportunity to bring out, say, this hybrid iPadOS Pro to get this. I think the bottom line is this. iPad need to split iPadOS. What we need to have is we need to have the current iPadOS, what exists right now, for devices like this, for the 10th generation iPad, for the 9th generation iPad. Also, I'm going to say it here because there has to be a divider somewhere. You guys out there who have the 2018 or the 2020 iPads, this is the one with the A12X or the A12Z out there, this would also run on the normal iPad operating system, because there's got to be a point here, because at the end of the day, you've got to remember, the M1 iPad Pro came out 3 years ago now. So yeah, you know, we're talking about devices that are even older than that too. So there would have to be a divider there. And I would say all of those kind of devices, also like the 4th gen iPad Air with the A14 was very similar to this iPad, and all of them, and even though I hate to say it, the current iPad mini at the moment, and maybe the new iPad mini Pro what comes out in the future might not have this, but it would have to have the current iPadOS software built into it. But then what could happen is Apple could actually create this hybrid iPadOS what could come out of all the M chipsets. So this new one, the iPadOS Pro, that's what I'm calling it, or the macOS mode, whatever you want to call it, that would be available for more of the higher end iPads out there, so you could fully utilize, you know, all those extra abilities. And like I said, we'd be able to use, say, all the iPad apps, and at the end of the day we can use iPad apps, for example, on macOS right now. Apple even talk about the ability that you can bring your iOS over to sort of macOS right now. So why can't we just do that right now, like in an operating system where it's kind of based on macOS instead, a touchscreen sort of macOS, but you could bring in the iPad apps into that. Or what you could do is you could just simply go on a browser like you can do right now on macOS, download an app and it would just work. You could do that, say, on the M4 iPad Pro. It'd be absolutely amazing for this to happen. And this is what people want. They want the ability to do that. They want the ability that we can actually sort of have a Finder app open a window, and that obviously like split screen and things like this. We'd have more of a Windows sort of ability here, not kind of sort of the multi sort of screen gesture things that we have right now, but again, a brand new way of interacting with our iPad. This is what Apple need to do for this new iPadOS. And I believe personally that Apple are listening to people out there, that these new iPad Pros, they're overpowered, and yet they can't give us everything that we can do like on one of these devices right here, and that the power is just not being utilized fully on one of these machines. And on that note as well, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think Apple need to do this? Do you think Apple should separate having iPadOS on one of these kind of iPads and the Pro sort of operating system, what's kind of a mix between macOS and iPadOS, or do you think they should just put macOS completely on the iPad? I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below. And also on that note as well, guys, it's time to wrap up this video. So if you have enjoyed watching it, please do press the like button. And also, if you want to hear the latest Apple news, reviews and comparisons, please also make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell too. Until next time, guys, I'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye bye.